Imagine removing Antarctica's ice. Not melting it. Not waiting thousands of years for the climate to change. Simply lifting the entire frozen shell away from the continent in a single impossible moment. The landscape revealed underneath would barely resemble the Antarctica printed on ordinary maps. Mountain ranges would rise from darkness. Deep valleys would cut across the interior. Vast basins would descend below sea level. Ancient river-shaped landscapes would appear where no river has flowed beneath an open sky for millions of years. Beneath some regions would lie networks of liquid water, sealed under crushing ice. And at the center of this hidden geography would stand one of the strangest mountain systems on Earth, peaks comparable in scale to major alpine ranges, yet completely buried. This is not the Antarctica imagined by conspiracy theories. This is the Antarctica revealed by radar. By 2026, one of the greatest geographical explorations remaining on Earth is taking place without explorers walking across the landscape they are mapping. Aircraft cross the frozen interior firing radio waves through kilometers of ice. Satellites measure changes measured in centimeters. Gravity and magnetic instruments detect structures that human eyes will probably never see directly. The continent above the ice is already extreme. The continent below it is another world. Much of Antarctica is covered by an ice sheet averaging nearly 2 kilometers thick, and in some places the ice descends far deeper. The familiar white surface therefore hides almost an entire continent from direct observation. Unlike Africa, Asia, or South America, where mountains, valleys, and drainage systems can be surveyed from the air, Antarctica forces scientists to reconstruct its geography indirectly. Every new dataset changes the map. And sometimes, what appears beneath the ice looks surprisingly familiar. Researchers have identified landscapes apparently carved by rivers before the Great East Antarctic Ice Sheet reached its modern configuration. Other investigations have revealed enormous subglacial valleys, deep tectonic rifts, and mountain terrain that seems astonishingly well preserved despite having spent millions of years beneath moving ice. These discoveries have created an important distinction. There really is a lost Antarctica. But lost does not necessarily mean inhabited. The scientifically documented mystery concerns an ancient continent transformed by climate and concealed by ice. Antarctica was once connected to other southern continents. It possessed forests. Rivers crossed its surface. Animals lived there. Long before it became the frozen wilderness we know today, its environment passed through climates so different that standing in parts of ancient Antarctica would have felt almost impossible to reconcile with the modern South Pole. That genuine history has repeatedly collided with a much more controversial idea. Could human beings have known something about Antarctica before its accepted discovery? The question became famous through interpretations of early maps, especially the 1513 chart compiled by Ottoman Admiral Piri Reis. Some writers have argued that the southern land on that map represents part of Antarctica without its ice. Mainstream historians and cartographic scholars do not accept that conclusion as established evidence. The geometry does not provide convincing proof of an accurately mapped prehistoric Antarctic coastline, and early European maps frequently contain speculative southern lands. Still, the controversy survives because Antarctica itself encourages speculation. Its surface hides too much. There are regions where the bedrock is known mainly from sparse measurements separated by enormous distances. There are subglacial lakes that have never been directly sampled. There are geological structures inferred from magnetism rather than seen. There are mountains no human being has ever physically stood upon because kilometers of ice separate them from the atmosphere. Even the language scientists use can sound like something from an undiscovered planet: subglacial hydrological systems, buried rift valleys, ghost mountains, ancient surfaces, isolated lakes. Yet those terms describe real features on Earth. And perhaps nothing demonstrates the scale of the hidden continent better than what happened when scientists began looking beneath the East Antarctic Plateau. There, under one of the flattest and most monotonous expanses of ice imaginable, instruments detected something almost absurd. Mountains. Not scattered hills. An enormous range of sharp peaks and deep valleys extending beneath the ice near the heart of East Antarctica. They became known as the Gamburtsev subglacial mountains. Their existence transformed a blank space beneath the ice into a geological mystery. How could mountains this enormous exist near the interior of an ancient continent, far from the obvious tectonic boundaries where great mountain systems normally form? And more strangely, how had portions of their terrain survived beneath the Antarctic ice without being completely ground away? The mystery of the lost continent had moved from old maps and legends into measurable geology. And the deeper scientists looked, the less empty Antarctica became. Because the mountains were only the beginning. To understand what lies beneath Antarctica, the modern ice must be mentally erased not only from the landscape, but from geological time. Antarctica has not always occupied the climatic world we associate with it today. For hundreds of millions of years, its rocks participated in the assembly and breakup of enormous supercontinents. Antarctica formed part of Gondwana alongside what would become South America, Africa, Australia, India, and other fragments of the southern world. Geological similarities between these continents preserve the history of connections that once seemed impossible when viewed across modern oceans. The evidence exists in rock formations, fossils, mountain belts, and matching geological structures separated today by thousands of miles. During parts of the Mesozoic era, Antarctica supported ecosystems dramatically different from the modern polar desert. Fossil discoveries show that vegetation once occupied regions now covered by ice. Ancient Antarctica contained forests, including environments that endured months of polar darkness each year. This does not mean Antarctica was tropical everywhere or throughout its history. Its climate changed repeatedly, and latitude still mattered. But atmospheric greenhouse conditions were sufficiently different that substantial vegetation could survive much farther south than would be possible today. The transformation accelerated during the Cenozoic. After the extinction of the non-avian dinosaurs, Antarctica remained connected to other southern landmasses for millions of years. Eventually, tectonic separation increasingly isolated the continent. Ocean circulation changed. Atmospheric carbon dioxide declined over geological timescales. Temperatures fell. Around 34 million years ago, close to the Eocene-Oligocene transition, major Antarctic glaciation expanded dramatically. The continent entered a new regime. Ice began rewriting its geography. But beneath the expanding ice sheet were landscapes already shaped by rivers, weathering, tectonic uplift, and erosion. When ice covered those surfaces, some were heavily modified. Others, particularly in regions where the ice became cold-based and relatively frozen to its bed, could be preserved for extraordinary periods. This is why researchers can now detect terrain beneath East Antarctica that appears ancient. The ice did not create every valley beneath Antarctica. Some landscapes predate the ice itself. That fact is crucial, because when radar reveals channels, plateaus, or valley networks beneath kilometers of ice, the discovery does not require an unknown civilization to explain them. Geological processes operating before permanent glaciation provide a powerful mechanism. But that scientific explanation does not make the landscape less extraordinary. It makes it older. Consider the Gamburtsev subglacial mountains. Soviet researchers detected evidence of the range during the International Geophysical Year of 1957 to 1958. Until then, the interior beneath the East Antarctic Ice Sheet was still largely unknown. Seismic measurements and later geophysical surveys indicated that major mountains existed under the plateau. The discovery immediately raised questions. Antarctica's interior is part of an old continental interior, not a young convergent plate boundary like the Himalayas. Yet hidden beneath the ice were rugged mountains with dramatic relief. Decades later, the Antarctic Gamburtsev Province project sent aircraft over the region equipped with ice-penetrating radar, gravity instruments, magnetometers, and laser systems. Scientists began reconstructing the buried range in unprecedented detail. What emerged was a landscape of peaks, valleys, ridges, and subglacial drainage. The mountains were not a smooth ancient stump. They remained spectacularly rugged. Researchers developed geological models involving ancient crustal structures, tectonic rejuvenation, rifting, and erosion to explain how the range formed and persisted. The exact long-term evolution remains an active scientific subject, but there is no credible evidence that the Gamburtsevs are artificial structures. Their mystery is geological. And geology here is sufficiently dramatic. Far beneath the aircraft flew valleys that no expedition could enter. Water existed beneath sections of the ice. The mountains themselves influenced the development and behavior of the overlying ice sheet. Antarctica was beginning to look less like a solid block of frozen rock and more like a layered system. Atmosphere, ice, water, sediment, bedrock. Each layer preserved information from another age. But scientists faced a fundamental problem. To understand the hidden continent, they needed to see through ice that could be several kilometers thick. And achieving that would require turning Antarctica itself into one of the largest remote sensing laboratories ever created. The next phase of the investigation would reveal not just mountains beneath the ice, but lakes, canyons, rifts, and entire landscapes that had vanished from the surface of Earth. For the first explorers, Antarctica was a problem of survival. For modern scientists, it became a problem of penetration. Visible light cannot reveal what lies beneath kilometers of ice. Ordinary satellite photographs show variations in snow, crevasses, mountains that break through the surface, and the immense geometry of the ice sheet itself. The rock underneath remains concealed. Radio waves changed everything. Ice-penetrating radar systems transmit energy downward through the glacier. Some of that energy reflects from internal layers. Eventually, under favorable conditions, a signal reaches the base of the ice and returns. The travel time helps reveal ice thickness. Repeated thousands upon thousands of times along flight lines, those echoes become profiles of a landscape that cannot be photographed directly. Early measurements were sparse. Enormous regions of Antarctica remained interpolated between distant survey lines. But successive international programs transformed the picture. Projects such as BedMap gathered measurements from decades of expeditions. Later compilations incorporated enormous quantities of radar, satellite, seismic, and other geophysical information. NASA's Operation Icebridge contributed airborne observations during a period when researchers needed additional coverage between satellite missions. The result was something previous generations could barely imagine. A map of Antarctica beneath the ice. Not a perfect map. That distinction matters. Modern visualizations can give the impression that every hidden valley and mountain has been measured precisely. In reality, resolution varies dramatically. Some regions have dense survey coverage. Others remain constrained by flight tracks separated by considerable distances, meaning researchers must mathematically infer what lies between them. The hidden continent is increasingly visible, but it is not completely known. And some of its measured features are astonishing. West Antarctica contains large areas of bedrock below sea level. Deep basins penetrate the continent. Tectonic rifts cut through its crust. In 2012, researchers described an enormous subglacial rift valley beneath the Ferrigno Glacier region, a feature roughly a mile deep in places and important to understanding how ocean water and topography can influence ice loss. Elsewhere, radar reveals troughs through which ice streams move toward the coast. This buried topography matters because Antarctica's future partly depends on its hidden past. Mountain ridges can slow ice. Deep channels can guide it. Basins lying below sea level can create pathways through which warmer ocean water influences grounded ice. What appears on a bedrock map is therefore not simply geographical decoration. It affects projections of global sea level rise. Yet the most haunting features are those that seem frozen in time. In East Antarctica, researchers have identified ancient landscapes preserved beneath the ice sheet. Radar and satellite-derived techniques have increasingly exposed broad surfaces and valley systems interpreted as remnants of pre-glacial or early glacial topography. In 2025, researchers reported remarkably flat surfaces extending across a vast sector of East Antarctica, from Princess Elizabeth Land toward George V Land. These buried surfaces were interpreted as remnants of ancient landscapes carved by rivers before major Antarctic glaciation. Think about what that means. Several kilometers beneath one of the most hostile ice sheets on Earth lies terrain shaped when water flowed beneath open skies. The surface has effectively disappeared from the living planet. No human can walk those ancient valleys. No forest remains standing there. No river flows across them beneath sunlight. But their geometry survived. The discovery also provides a warning against careless interpretation. When satellite images reveal unusual lines or radar data produces geometric-looking shapes, the human brain is exceptionally good at detecting patterns. Straight ridges become walls. Rectangular shadows become buildings. Mountains become pyramids. Antarctica has produced countless viral claims based on this effect. Most collapse under examination. Some supposed pyramids are nunataks or naturally angular peaks. Apparent openings can be shadows, ice features, image artifacts, or ordinary geological formations. Without field evidence, stratigraphic context, artifacts, or reproducible geophysical data, calling such features ancient structures goes far beyond what the evidence supports. But dismissing false claims should not obscure the real discovery. There truly are massive structures beneath Antarctica. They are geological structures. Fault systems. Mountain chains. Sedimentary basins. Volcanic features. Ancient drainage networks. And something else. Radar reflections began revealing unusually smooth, bright interfaces beneath the ice. In certain places, scientists realized they were not looking at rock. They were looking at water. Liquid water. Trapped beneath an ice sheet in a continent famous for temperatures far below freezing. Hundreds of hidden lakes would eventually emerge from the data. And one of them would become almost legendary. Lake Vostok. Near the Russian Vostok station in East Antarctica, the surface gives almost no indication of what lies below. The landscape is an immense frozen plateau. Winds sweep across snow under a sky that can seem almost empty. Temperatures here have reached some of the lowest ever measured directly at Earth's surface. Yet beneath roughly 4 kilometers of ice lies an enormous body of liquid water. Lake Vostok. Its existence became clear through decades of seismic measurements, radar observations, and satellite data. The lake stretches for hundreds of kilometers beneath the East Antarctic Ice Sheet, making it the largest known subglacial lake in Antarctica. Its discovery forced scientists to reconsider the continent's interior. Antarctica was not frozen solid. Pressure from the overlying ice lowers the melting point. Heat from Earth rises through the crust. Ice at the base can melt, while elsewhere water freezes onto the underside of the ice sheet. Together, these processes allow liquid water environments to persist beneath enormous thicknesses of ice. Lake Vostok is not an underground tropical sea. It receives no sunlight. It is sealed beneath crushing ice. Its chemistry and circulation are controlled by conditions unlike ordinary surface lakes. And it immediately raised an irresistible scientific question. Could life survive there? The possibility generated global fascination because subglacial environments are analogs, though imperfect ones, for potentially habitable environments elsewhere in the solar system. Worlds such as Jupiter's moon Europa and Saturn's moon Enceladus are believed to possess oceans beneath ice. Antarctica offered researchers something closer to home. But accessing such environments creates a serious problem. Contamination. Drilling through kilometers of ice risks introducing microorganisms and chemicals from the surface into systems that may have remained isolated for extremely long periods. For this reason, the scientific exploration of subglacial lakes has demanded strict discussion of clean access techniques. The mystery became even richer when scientists realized that Lake Vostok was not alone. Hundreds of subglacial lakes have now been identified across Antarctica, with inventories continuing to change as improved satellite observations detect active filling and drainage. In 2025, analysis using ESA's CryoSat mission identified dozens of previously unrecognized active subglacial lakes. Some are stable for long periods. Others behave like reservoirs connected by hidden plumbing. Water can accumulate beneath the ice, then drain. When enough water moves from one region to another, the ice surface kilometers above can subtly rise or fall. Satellites detect those changes. The implication is remarkable. There are hydrological systems operating beneath Antarctica in total darkness. Water moves through channels. Lakes exchange water. Basal sediments become saturated. The hidden drainage system can influence how quickly glaciers slide across their beds. This is not a dead continent trapped beneath a static freezer. It is dynamic. One of the most important demonstrations came from direct exploration of subglacial Lake Whillans in West Antarctica. Researchers successfully accessed the lake using clean hot water drilling and recovered water and sediment samples. Analysis revealed microbial ecosystems surviving without sunlight. Those organisms did not require forests, photosynthesis at the lake surface, or contact with the atmosphere. They survived through chemical energy available within the subglacial environment. The discovery did not prove exotic life exists everywhere beneath Antarctica. It did something more scientifically important. It demonstrated directly that viable microbial ecosystems can exist beneath the Antarctic ice sheet. This changed the meaning of buried continent. There was geology below. There was water below. There was life below. But there was still no evidence of buried cities. That distinction became increasingly important as scientific discoveries were absorbed into an expanding mythology surrounding Antarctica. Old maps were reinterpreted. Military expeditions acquired sinister narratives. Gaps in public understanding were filled with speculation. Among all these stories, one operation became especially central. In late 1946, only a short time after the end of the Second World War, the United States Navy sent a major force toward Antarctica. Ships. Aircraft. Thousands of personnel. Rear Admiral Richard E. Byrd was closely associated with the mission. Officially, it was Operation Highjump. Decades later, it would become one of the foundations of modern Antarctic conspiracy culture. But the documented story is already extraordinary enough. And separating what actually happened from what was later invented reveals something important about why Antarctica attracts legends so easily. In December 1946, a large American naval expedition moved toward Antarctica. Its scale was dramatic. Operation Highjump involved ships, aircraft, logistical support, and thousands of personnel. Rear Admiral Richard E. Byrd, already one of the most famous American polar explorers, played a major role in the expedition. Photographs show aircraft operating above the ice. Naval vessels pushed into polar waters. Teams established facilities around Little America. Aerial reconnaissance helped chart enormous sections of the Antarctic coastline and interior. In isolation, those images look almost military in the conventional sense. And they were military. Highjump was a United States Navy operation. But military does not automatically mean secret war. The documented objectives included training personnel and testing equipment in extreme cold, establishing and extending Antarctic facilities, improving knowledge of geographic and environmental conditions, and demonstrating operational capability in polar regions. The timing helped create later suspicion. World War II had ended only recently. Nazi Germany had conducted an expedition to Queen Maud Land in 1938 to 1939, a real historical event frequently transformed in later fiction into stories about hidden German bases beneath Antarctica. Evidence for a wartime underground Nazi civilization in Antarctica has never been established. The connection between that expedition and Highjump became irresistible to speculative writers. The story grew. In increasingly elaborate versions, Highjump was no longer a training and exploration mission. It became an assault against a hidden base. Aircraft were supposedly attacked by impossible machines. Byrd allegedly encountered advanced technology. The expedition supposedly withdrew after suffering catastrophic losses. Those claims require evidence. And the historical record does not support the extraordinary version. There were genuine accidents during Highjump, including the crash of the PBM Mariner George I, in which crew members died. Antarctic aviation was brutally dangerous. Weather changed rapidly. Navigation was difficult. Mechanical failure far from assistance could become fatal. Tragedy does not require a secret enemy. Neither does the expedition's relatively short duration prove defeat by an unknown force. What Highjump does demonstrate is how quickly Antarctica became strategically important in the 20th century. Polar aviation mattered. Weather observations mattered. Navigation mattered. Territorial interests mattered. The continent's enormous unknown spaces mattered. Only a decade later, however, Antarctic activity moved into a remarkably different phase. The International Geophysical Year of 1957 to 1958 brought nations together in an unprecedented scientific effort. Research stations multiplied. Scientists measured the atmosphere, gravity, magnetism, ice, weather, and the solid Earth. The Soviet Union established Vostok Station deep within East Antarctica. The United States established Amundsen-Scott Station at the South Pole. International geophysical surveys began turning unknown interior regions into measurable territory. Scientific cooperation helped create the political conditions that produced the Antarctic Treaty, signed in Washington on December 1, 1959. The treaty designated Antarctica for peaceful purposes and protected freedom of scientific investigation. This history is sometimes inverted by conspiracy narratives. Restrictions intended to protect fragile environments or regulate activities are interpreted as evidence that governments are hiding discoveries. Military logistical support is interpreted as proof of military secrets. Difficult access is interpreted as prohibition. In reality, large parts of Antarctica are difficult to reach because the continent is enormous, dangerous, expensive, environmentally protected, and almost completely devoid of conventional infrastructure. That does not mean every government activity in Antarctica has always been transparent in every detail. States have strategic interests. National programs operate complex logistics. Historical territorial claims exist. Science and geopolitics have never been completely separate. But acknowledging those realities is different from claiming evidence for hidden civilizations. The more interesting mystery may be how much remains unknown even without secrecy. Consider a radar aircraft flying across East Antarctica. Below it may be 3 kilometers of ice. Below that may be a valley last exposed before modern humans existed. A government does not need to hide that valley from us. Nature already has. And there is another reason speculation persists. From above, Antarctica occasionally produces shapes that look almost designed. Triangles. Rectangles. Long straight lines. Dark openings. Circular anomalies. The question is not whether these shapes exist. The question is what kind of evidence would be necessary before calling any of them artificial. That is where the investigation becomes most difficult. Because Antarctica forces us to confront the difference between seeing a pattern and discovering a structure. A triangular mountain rises through Antarctic ice. Sunlight strikes one face while another falls into deep shadow. Snow emphasizes sharp ridges. From a particular satellite angle, the geometry appears almost perfect. Within hours of appearing online, it can become an ancient pyramid. The pattern is familiar because the human mind searches for intentional geometry. But mountains frequently produce pyramidal forms. Glacial erosion can carve steep faces. Intersecting ridges create triangular profiles. Nunataks protruding through ice can appear isolated and artificial when the surrounding geology is hidden beneath snow. No verified archaeological excavation has demonstrated that the widely circulated Antarctic pyramids are human constructions. That fact does not prove ancient people never reached any part of Antarctica. It means the specific pyramid claim lacks the evidence needed to establish it. Archaeology requires context. Artifacts. Stratigraphy. Datable material. Repeated observations. A geometric shape and imagery is not enough. The same evidentiary problem surrounds the Piri Reis map. Created in 1513 by Ottoman admiral and cartographer Piri Reis, the surviving fragment contains parts of the Atlantic world assembled from earlier geographic sources. Its unusual southern coastline has inspired claims that it depicts Antarctica before the continent was buried in ice. If true, the implications would be enormous. It would suggest geographic knowledge far older and more advanced than conventional history recognizes. But extraordinary implications require unusually strong evidence. Most historians do not interpret the southern landmass as an accurately surveyed ice-free Antarctica. Early cartographers commonly combine known coastlines with uncertain reports, distorted geography, and hypothetical southern lands. Attempts to match the Piri Reis coastline precisely to subglacial Antarctica depend heavily on selective interpretation. The map is genuinely fascinating. It is not accepted proof of a forgotten Antarctic civilization. A similar pattern appears whenever scientific instruments discover unexpected features beneath the ice. Radar reveals a rectangular-looking boundary. A seismic profile shows an abrupt interface. A magnetic survey detects an anomaly. Online speculation asks whether the anomaly could be artificial. Scientifically, almost anything is possible before sufficient data exist. But possibility is not probability. Antarctica contains tectonic blocks, faults, volcanic intrusions, sedimentary basins, folded rocks, and erosional features capable of creating surprisingly regular geophysical patterns. West Antarctica is particularly complex. It is geologically active compared with the ancient East Antarctic interior. Researchers have identified numerous subglacial volcanic features and evidence of elevated geothermal heat in some regions. Mount Erebus remains an active volcano rising above the ice on Ross Island, visually demonstrating that fire and ice coexist on this continent. Volcanism beneath the ice is sometimes exaggerated into claims that enormous hidden warm zones must exist where unknown societies could survive. The evidence does not support that leap. Local geothermal heat can melt basal ice and influence subglacial water without creating vast habitable caverns filled with temperate air. Again, the conventional explanation is not boring. Imagine magma and geothermal heat interacting with ice kilometers thick. Imagine liquid water forming beneath a frozen desert. Imagine organisms living in darkness on chemical energy. Imagine mountains preserved beneath ice long enough for entire mammalian lineages to evolve elsewhere on Earth while the buried peaks remain unseen. The real Antarctica already borders on the surreal. Alternative interpretations become most useful when they generate questions that can actually be tested. Was this valley formed by rivers or glaciers? Is this bright radar reflector water or saturated sediment? Is a magnetic anomaly volcanic, tectonic, or something else? Can a suspected surface structure be explained by known geology? Those questions can produce measurements. Claims of hidden technological civilizations require a different level of evidence, and so far that level has not been met. But there is a legitimate uncertainty that deserves attention. Antarctica remains incompletely mapped beneath the ice. Not every valley has been resolved. Not every lake has been identified. Not every geological province is understood. The absence of evidence for fantastic claims does not mean the continent has surrendered all its mysteries. Quite the opposite. As technology improves, researchers keep discovering features that were not present on earlier maps. And by the middle of the 2020s, satellites and airborne surveys were beginning to reveal the hidden continent with a precision that would have seemed impossible during Operation Highjump. What they found was not a buried Atlantis. It was something scientifically more profound. Fragments of an ancient Earth still preserved underneath the modern one. The newest age of Antarctic exploration does not begin with a flag planted in the snow. It begins with data. A satellite passes hundreds of kilometers overhead and measures a change in surface elevation. An aircraft crosses East Antarctica while radar pulses penetrate the ice. A gravity instrument detects differences in buried mass. A magnetometer records variations created by the crust. Computers combine these observations into models of terrain no one has directly seen. Piece by piece, another Antarctica emerges. Modern bed maps have become dramatically more detailed than the first continent-wide reconstructions, but they also reveal how much uncertainty remains. Where survey lines are dense, researchers can reconstruct valleys and ridges with increasing confidence. In unsurveyed gaps, the hidden landscape still has to be estimated. Scientists therefore continue searching for the critical places where bed geometry matters most. One of the major questions concerns how deeply some Antarctic basins extend below sea level. These regions can strongly influence the stability of the ice sheet because retreating ice may expose pathways that allow ocean-driven melting to penetrate farther inland. The hidden landscape is directly connected to the future coastlines of every inhabited continent. But other discoveries look backward rather than forward. In 2023, researchers reported an extensive ancient landscape beneath East Antarctica, preserved under the ice and interpreted as having formed through river erosion before major glaciation. The terrain included valleys and highlands covering an area comparable to a large modern region. Then, in 2025, another study expanded the picture dramatically. Radar data revealed remarkably flat buried surfaces stretching across roughly 3,500 kilometers of East Antarctica between Princess Elizabeth Land and George V Land. Researchers interpreted these surfaces as pieces of ancient terrain associated with rivers and long-term erosion before the ice sheet became dominant. What appears today to be an endless white plateau is therefore hiding pieces of a former continental surface. A pre-ice Antarctica. Not reconstructed from mythology. Measured through geophysics. Satellite measurements are also transforming the map of subglacial water. By observing subtle changes in ice sheet elevation over time, scientists can identify lakes that fill and drain beneath the surface. In 2025, researchers using cryosat data reported 85 previously unrecognized active subglacial lakes. The discovery emphasized that Antarctica's buried hydrological system is still being cataloged. Some lakes can change without ever becoming visible at the surface. Water moves. Pressure changes. The ice responds. A satellite detects the consequence. This is exploration through indirect evidence at planetary scale. Technology has also allowed researchers to investigate regions near grounding lines, where the ice sheet transitions toward floating ice shelves. These boundaries are especially important because relatively warm ocean water can reach cavities beneath floating ice and alter the stability of glaciers upstream. Robotic vehicles, autonomous instruments, radar, seismic surveys, satellites, and oceanographic sensors are gradually penetrating environments previously inaccessible to direct study. Every advance removes one layer of uncertainty while exposing another. We now know that Antarctica contains extensive networks of subglacial lakes. But we do not fully understand every connection between them. We know ancient landscapes survive beneath East Antarctica. But many remain only coarsely resolved. We know geothermal heat varies beneath the continent. But mapping that heat precisely remains difficult. We know West Antarctica contains major rift structures. But the deep tectonic history of the continent still contains unresolved chapters. And beneath the oldest ice lies another archive. Antarctic ice cores preserve ancient atmospheres inside microscopic bubbles. Drilling projects have pushed climate records backward hundreds of thousands of years, and international programs continue pursuing even older ice. The purpose is not to search for buildings. It is to recover Earth's climatic memory. Each layer contains evidence of ancient temperature, atmospheric composition, volcanic eruptions, and environmental change. Antarctica is therefore hiding two different histories simultaneously. Above the bedrock, the ice preserves the atmosphere of the past. Below the ice, the landscape preserves geography from a warmer world. Between them lies water, sediment, microorganisms, and millions of years of geological interaction. This is why calling Antarctica merely a frozen wasteland misses almost everything important about it. The continent is an archive. And we have opened only a fraction of its pages. So what remains when the myths, exaggerations, and viral images are stripped away? Does the phrase "lost continent beneath 2 miles of ice" survive scientific scrutiny? The answer is more surprising than either believers or skeptics might expect. Because in one very real sense, the lost continent is already there. After all the rumors are removed, Antarctica does not become less mysterious. It becomes more mysterious in the right way. There is no verified evidence that an advanced prehistoric civilization constructed cities beneath the Antarctic ice. No authenticated archaeological record demonstrates ancient pyramids hidden under the ice sheet. No credible documentation proves Operation Highjump fought technologically advanced enemies. No accepted interpretation of the Piri Reis map establishes that an unknown civilization accurately surveyed an ice-free Antarctica thousands of years ago. Those claims remain unsupported. But now consider what is supported. There really are enormous mountain ranges beneath Antarctica. There really are deep rift valleys. There really are vast regions of bedrock below sea level. There really are hundreds of known subglacial lakes, with new active systems continuing to be identified through satellite observations. There really are microbial ecosystems capable of surviving beneath the ice without sunlight. There really are ancient landscapes preserved under East Antarctica. There really are river-shaped surfaces buried beneath an environment that today seems incapable of supporting rivers. And there really was a much warmer Antarctica. Forests once occupied the continent. Animals moved through ecosystems at polar latitudes. Tectonic connections once joined Antarctica to lands now separated from it by vast oceans. Then climate changed. Ocean gateways evolved. Atmospheric conditions shifted. Ice expanded. And gradually, an entire continental surface disappeared. Not in a single catastrophe. Not overnight. Not because someone covered it deliberately. It vanished through geological time. That may be the most important idea hidden beneath the phrase lost continent. Antarctica is not lost because humanity forgot where it was. It is lost because its visible geography has been replaced. The surface we recognize as Antarctica is mostly the surface of its ice sheet. The actual continental terrain lies underneath. Mountains beneath plains. Valleys beneath plateaus. Lakes beneath frozen deserts. River landscapes beneath regions where snow may never melt during an entire human lifetime. In most places we have never seen that world directly. We have detected it. Measured it. Modeled it. Inferred its history. That distinction leaves room for genuine uncertainty. Future radar surveys will undoubtedly refine features currently blurred between flight lines. Additional subglacial lakes may be discovered. New geological structures may emerge from magnetic and gravity data. Drilling may reveal microorganisms adapted to conditions still poorly understood. Ancient sediments could preserve biological and climatic records extending far deeper into Earth's past than existing ice cores. And some surprises will probably force scientists to revise assumptions. That is not evidence of conspiracy. That is what exploration does. The great irony of Antarctica is that humanity has mapped other planetary surfaces while portions of our own planet remain hidden beneath ice. We possess global satellite networks. We can reconstruct distant galaxies. We have sent machines beyond the outer planets. Yet somewhere beneath East Antarctica, there are valleys no human eye has ever seen. There may be rock surfaces that have not touched open air for tens of millions of years. There are mountains that experience no sunrise. Lakes that know no wind. Sediments that have remained separated from the surface world across spans of time almost impossible to imagine. And above all of it lies ice. Layer after layer. Year after year. A frozen barrier reaching kilometers toward the buried continent below. Perhaps this is why Antarctica attracts so many extraordinary stories. The unknown invites us to fill empty spaces. Previous centuries placed sea monsters beyond the borders of maps. Early cartographers imagined unknown southern lands. Modern culture fills gaps in Antarctic radar and satellite imagery with bases, pyramids, spacecraft, and vanished civilizations. But the strongest mysteries do not require us to invent what is missing. They require us to understand what is actually there. The lost Antarctica beneath the ice was shaped by tectonics, rivers, forests, climate transitions, glaciers, volcanism, and immense spans of geological time. Its archives may help explain how ice sheets collapse, how oceans rise, how microorganisms survive in extreme isolation, how continents evolve, how Earth moves between radically different climate states. And perhaps most unsettlingly, Antarctica reminds us how temporary the world we consider normal really is. Where there is now ice, there were once rivers. Where there is now darkness beneath kilometers of frozen water, there were once landscapes beneath an open sky. The transformation was so complete that an entire continent seems to have vanished without moving anywhere. It is still beneath us. Still holding its mountains. Still holding its valleys. Still holding water in the darkness. And as radar lines multiply and satellites continue watching the frozen surface from above, the white spaces on the hidden map are slowly shrinking. Antarctica is not revealing a forgotten human empire. It is revealing something far older. A forgotten version of Earth itself. And somewhere beneath 2 miles of ice, the next piece of that world is still waiting to be discovered.